Hi everyone, I'm Duncan, this is Manjul. Yes, we're from BfB Labs. We still call ourselves a startup. We've been going 3 years, and our mission is to develop products, digital products and services for better healthcare and well-being, and we're focused very much on children and young people. We built one product already. It is called Champions of the Schengen. We launched it last year. It's a biofeedback video game that you play wearing a heart rate monitor, and we can incentivize children and young people to develop better emotional regulation skills by understanding their emotional state or state of calm through understanding their heart rate, analysing their heart rate variability. I'm sure there's lots of people in this room who understand the science of that very well. We've embedded it in a game to teach children some of the skills, particularly diaphragmatic breathing, that can help them improve their ability to emotionally self-regulate. I'm just going to show you a quick trailer for that game.
What do we find in the heart of a champion? Fear? Joy? Or fury? Which path will you choose?
So built for 10 to 14-year-olds, you're cast as a spellcaster going into magical duels against your opponents, and you have to beat your opponents by using spells, weapons, creatures, and defending yourself. And the way you get access to those is by putting yourself into a state of calm and earning those magical points to buy those weapons. I think, so we've been in the market for about a year with this game. This is us, our team. I was struck looking through the list of speakers today that I think Manjul and I are the only people here that aren't a professor or a doctor. So, and I think that's very much our point of difference and where we come from. We're a team of designers, service design expertise, game design expertise, and I'm from a more commercial background, sort of people who can think about how to put things into the world to be sustainable. And we don't have lots of clinical expertise embedded in our team. So for us, our partnerships are really, really important, and we're really proud of the partnerships we've got with MindTech, who obviously are hosting us today, with the guys at Reading, Rathee, Tessa and Claire, supporting us around the therapeutic basis of what we develop. And we're developing partnerships with clinicians and people in market day to day, trying to treat people with mental health problems, and we have one of those in Suffolk. Really important for us, we bring some expertise around user-centered game design and intervention design from a digital perspective, and partnered with people who can bring the other side of that. So we're building a new game, a new intervention, and it's about tackling this big problem we all know about, which is anxiety in young people. Rathee gave you a lot of the stats. I'm going to rattle through that problem again. I think you're going to hear it a lot of times today. Hopefully all the stats marry up. There are a lot of children out there. Our numbers say 400,000 young people aged 8 to 12 who have some form of disordered anxiety, and a lot of those children aren't accessing support. Rathee showed you the numbers in her slides. 70%, 75% aren't getting any access to support, and actually a frighteningly small number of people are getting through to actually having evidence-based treatment like CBT. And we know that the demand on services is increasing, and that services can't cope. CAMHS units already are struggling, waiting lists are very long, and the bar to actually accessing treatment is getting higher and higher, which means lots of people, particularly those with low to medium severity anxiety, are either not getting treatment at all or are waiting a very long time for it. Which means there's a huge amount of value in early intervention. This is value both on a human level. It means that people, we can provide positive solutions for people or impact on people to prevent their illness getting worse. And we can have a huge financial impact by taking the pressure off the very high cost but effective face-to-face therapist-led services, but which we just don't have the resources in the healthcare system to provide enough of. So that's the problem. We want to develop a product which could be a digital product which could be used early and meet some of this problem. And for us, we're about games, and we think games can play a hugely powerful role in the digital intervention environment. And that's because games are so engaging. And we all know, those of us who have children, we know how long they play games for and how hard it is to get them off them. Rather than fight that, we want to embrace that and use all of the great things about games which make them engaging and have such high adherence, which we struggle with so much in the sort of medical interventions world. We wanted to use those mechanisms and put them at the heart of an intervention. And finally, just on therapeutic basis, we very much wanted to embed in our new product one of the critical active ingredients within CBT, and worked closely with Tessa at University of Reading to think about how this might translate, but take out the exposure therapy elements from CBT and embed that at the heart of a gaming solution to deliver those parts of the CBT protocols to young people. So I'm going to hand over to Manjul, who's going to tell you a bit about what we've actually built.
Thank you. So I think one of the things that we wanted to do was make sure that we're not reinventing the wheel. We took a look at what's already out there, and needless to say, there's some really exciting, interesting, and potentially very useful stuff that exists at the moment. But we figured that there were some things that some of these were currently lacking, and that's something that we could set ourselves a task of achieving. Especially looking at the ease of access, exposure therapy, high adherence to whatever the offering was, real-time tracking, which I think is extremely crucial if you want to be able to make decisions quickly and be best informed. And of course, the access with regards to the cost side of things, which the lady from Chatbot recently talked about. I think considering all these things, we set ourselves the challenge that if this is the status quo, then what are we best placed to do? We figured that we could attempt to create a low-cost early digital intervention that is clinically proven to enable young people to better cope with their anxieties. This sits well in line with the Thrive framework, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with. It was developed by the Anna Freud Center and is currently being widely adopted. It fits in specifically well with the coping component of it, which talks about building the resilience and the ability of a community to prevent, support, and intervene successfully in mental health issues. We are currently looking at pilot testing 3 different points of access so that we can kind of narrow our focus down to specifically which one of these we ought to be focusing on. First is the universal support, which is about building resilience for young people with early signs of low to medium levels of anxiety. This could be through open access or self-referral. The second is early intervention, so supporting young people with early access to treatment. This is potentially when a young person has presented themselves to services with signs of anxiety. It could be accessed by them through a referral from a GP, a SENCO in a school, or a CAMP service. And thirdly is treatment support, so providing young people engaging treatment options within their current care pathway. The drop-off rate for CBT at the moment, once a young person does reach that point after 18 months, as Dr. John Bruin pointed out in the first presentation here, is between 27 to 43%, which is quite high. So is there something that we can do at this point that can help tackle that? So a few quick key aspects of the game. It is being designed for young people aged 7 to 12 years who may have low to medium levels of anxiety. It is being designed to provide early support. It uses exposure therapy techniques as a basis. In no way is it trying to replicate face-to-face exposure therapy, because that is extremely valuable and benefits several young people every day in the UK. It can be localized. We understand by having done a lot of ecosystems mapping of the NHS care pathways that the need for adaptation is high, and hopefully this can respond to it. It'll aim to capture ongoing feedback. We're trying to make it such that we can keep it at a low cost, yet engage users with high quality gaming, because that's what we know how to do. And we're also designing it such that it wouldn't necessarily require ongoing human support. So in a nutshell, and in the near future, if we were to gauge what the potential impact could be, hopefully more young people with anxiety would get support early. Young people will learn to better cope with their anxieties. Fewer young people will need treatment, which will reduce costs and waiting times for camp services. But like I said, this is what we can see in the immediate future. Looking at the wider impacts, there'll be a potential reduction in costs and an increase in efficiency on the part of the services. There'll be an increase, hopefully, in recovery rates as well. It'll prevent young people from growing into adulthood with various other manifestations of what might have been a childhood-rooted anxiety. The evaluation component of this is embedded in the game that will better inform clinicians because they'd be getting real-time data all the time. So what have we been up to so far? We have carried out extensive research and have been using a user-centered design methodology, which several others have talked about already. This involves, of course, co-creation, code development, and all those sorts of things. But at the heart of it lies the approach that we want to put service users at the center of all our activities and accept that we don't know everything that we need to know and go into it as experts of gaming, but not necessarily of the user experience that we can only anticipate at this point in time. I have a few slides that will follow on from this that talk a little bit about the different kinds of activities that we've been doing. So looking at exposure therapy alone, it's such a broad area. What we did first and foremost is, having done our literature review and our interviews and our initial conversations, we went into a co-creation session with some of the key stakeholders to start defining some therapeutic parameters for ourselves. This meant that the information that seemed really complex to games designers and developers at the onset started to distill itself. We started to visualize it in different ways so that it would start making more sense to us. We started working a lot with young people. Here you can see a picture of a story hack, and one thing that really came out of this session from the storyteller who was facilitating this was that we ought to think of children as less experienced adults and not as children. We started bringing on board a lot of different types of game designers and game experts. So if you're familiar with Minecraft and with Blizzard, we spoke to a whole lot of different types of experts to really stretch our thinking. We didn't want to just necessarily base it on the experiences that we had while developing Champions of the Shanga, but also expand ourselves as much as we could so that we could make the right decisions around defining the gaming parameters. This also meant that a lot of information was starting to surface. And when that started to happen, we realized that we needed to constantly synthesize these new findings and new developments. And we did this through a lot of different types of mapping tools. And of course, children really help open up new possibilities. Every time that we needed to resolve a complex problem, like what should the game flow be like, we open it up to kids, and needless to say, they are full of creativity, full of ideas, know a lot more about gaming than any one of us, and that was really insightful for us. This is just to give you a glimpse of what a small component of a game flow looks like. It's flowcharts into flowcharts into flowcharts. And as Kathy mentioned, the user testing has been extremely crucial, not only for them, but for us as well. We've been doing a lot of rapid testing and iterations, and essentially building the entire game in bite-sized steps, because to do it in one single go would be, at this point in time, a foolish step to take, because we don't have all the answers. So what's the game about? It's essentially about a young person who gets into the game as a space archaeologist and is sent off on a mission to explore ruined planets throughout the solar system. On each planet, they need to find clues about the past civilization and gain enough data points, so this is where the reward's coming, to travel back in time to new levels. On each level, there are various quests given to them by characters that they must complete to gain data points. So this is where we start weaving in some of the graded exposures. They are supported by their ship's AI, which helps them travel back in time, set goals, and undertake challenges.